Good morning, hello, brothers and sisters. Bear with me, I'm not used to speaking in front of a crowd. But God has been very good to me. He's saved me many times. And, it's always truly a blessing to have the chance to even the opportunity to be in the house of God. And I'm sure most every one of us in here have at least experienced one deadly moment in our lives to where we didn't even have the moment to say, God, help me. It all happened there quick. Well, I'm up here today to share with you those deadly moments where God saved my life. When I was 1 month old, I developed acute pneumonia. The doctor literally told my parents that he wouldn't give them a penny for my life. Of course, they didn't have technology like we do today, so they chose to basically fight fire with fire. They chose to freeze it out of me. They put me in an incubator for 2 weeks while my entire body was totally bare and exposed and turned plum purple. I survived, and it's really kind of funny to me today how purple happens to be my favorite color, and that's the truth. At the age of 7, my 2 older sisters were playing baseball with the neighborhood kids in the vacant lot next door. I was sent outside to tell them it was time to eat. So I go running out there, and to hear my sister tell this story, she instantly just gets all upset, and she goes, "Oh my gee, I swore I killed my baby sister." She said, "All I know is when I swung that bat," she said, "when I swung that bat, he'd come running out there, and that bat hit her right dead center of her forehead, and she stopped dead in her tracks. Her feet went up in the air, and her whole body just bam, slammed and hit the ground." I woke up on the neighbor's ironing board with everybody standing around me and praying over me 2 hours later. I come from a fairly faith-filled family, very rich in faith. Our doctor was always Dr. Jesus. When things happened, we prayed and we prayed until something happened. Or we felt they knew it was about to happen, and we trusted in God that it would, and it usually always did. So, I did pretty okay. I went on in school, I'd be out at recess time, and I was always real active, and so I would get overheated, and I'd end up in the nurse's station. I'd pass out and end up in the nurse's station. But overall, I went on and did okay. Then whenever I was 16, oh boy, I married Ronald. He was 19. Exactly 9.5 months later, I gave birth to our baby daughter, Jennifer Marie. 4.5 months later, she was murdered by Ronald, her own biological father. She died in my arms on the way to the hospital. I actually felt her last 3 heartbeats because she wasn't breathing, but her heart was still beating, so I kept feeling. I tried to do what I could, but what did I know? I'm 17 at that point. Make a long story short, he confessed, he went to prison. I was shattered, my emotions were all over the place, spiraling out of control. And again, to make a long story short, by the grace of God, I chose not to take his life, nor mine, or both. And which would have been extremely pleasing to Lucifer, Satan. If I would have allowed him through me, he would have caused not only 3 lives, he would have not taken only 3 souls, but he would have destroyed everyone around it that was involved. Praise Jesus. Now, at that 17 years old, it surely could have been a complete disaster, but it wasn't. At the age of 22, I had a real sweet 73 Cougar. I totaled it out at speeds of about 9,500 miles an hour. Yeah, jumped the curb, wrapped around concrete setting, and around on the driver's side, right between the tire and the driver door. It literally broke the frame away from the firewall, and the whole front of the car was sitting like this. The frame was literally sticking out inside the car. My whole body slammed up against the side of the car. I walked away with just that scar right here, little scar right here. The officer on the scene, he was like literally he was just devastated. He couldn't believe that I was actually the driver of this main vehicle and wasn't needing a ride to the hospital. Okay. I shortened all these stories. I know them all by heart, believe me, but I had to shorten them all, so I had to write it down because it's really a lot. And okay, over a period of the years after that, several years on down through there, I actually had a total of 5 different pneumothoraxes, and what that means is a lung collapse. And I won't mention all of them, but 2 of them put me in the hospital, one for 5 days. They inflated it, then turned it off, it deflated, so they re-inflated it, turned it back on, then it stayed inflated, and they sent me home. I'm like, oh my God, what's to keep it home, But anyway, so went on, did okay for years. Then they told me if it ever deflated again, they'd have to go. I guess that was the doctor's bedside manner telling me that I need to quit smoking. Yeah. So my lung got collapsed at one point, and they put me on antibiotics, and for 3 months I was on antibiotics that didn't phase it, so they ended up hospitalizing me, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with the PICC line, but that's where they run it through your bloodline straight directly to your heart, and they pump liquid antibiotic straight to your heart. That's how bad the infection is. So I spent 14 days in the hospital with it pumping these dosages directly in my heart every 30 minutes. Praise God, I lived through that too. And then, a lot of y'all are familiar with this little situation right here. The year before last, on August 11th, 2022, when I had that accident. Well, my vehicle was struck by another vehicle, in which was their fault. Leaving me with life-threatening injuries. I had a broken leg, I had a shattered jaw, I had a broken neck. I learned at that point, you can have a broken neck just on one side, and it's considered a broken neck. Mine was broken on both sides, completely. Basically, I was literally decapitated. Somehow I lived. We know how that somehow, we know where that came from.
Yes, amen.
Okay, let's see. Anyway, okay, so he hit me so hard, it literally knocked me unconscious. I don't even remember getting hit. I just remember traveling down the road on my way home, and next thing I know, I woke up a week later in the hospital. Out of the 2 weeks, I ended up being hospitalized, which wasn't too bad. And, but at the time of the accident, when I was unconscious during that week, I remembered a moment I remembered about what felt like would have been like, it was a real vague, like 3 to 4 second period, to where I recall literally being over the top of my car, up on not the hood, but on the top, over that, about 2 or 3 foot maybe, like I was just hovering there, and I was looking down at myself, and which I thought at the time I was drooped over my car door. It just lasted a few moments, and it never really dawned on me until months later that with my head getting hit so hard and everything, it's been lately, there's a lot of side effects. But anyway, it finally dawned on me one day that I thought, You know, they must have really had killed me. I must have really died for a few seconds because there is no other explanation as to how I could be over my car looking down at myself unless my spirit has left my body. There's no way. So, the doctors were totally amazed, of course. He's told me straight out, he said, you're very fortunate. And by the time he said fortunate, I said blessed. I did. And he said, well, yes, ma'am, you are very. He said, according to medical fact, he said, you should be dead. He said, I'm just going to say it straight out. He said, you should be dead or at least paralyzed from the neck down. And he said, look at you standing over there. Just a week had gone by, I woke up and they was like, hey, do you feel well enough to get up or change your bed? And I got up and walked over and was standing there, and the doctor just happened to come in. He was like, look at you, you know. But he told me, he says, you know, so I guess I've just become a walking miracle over the years, you know what I mean? And I have to give God all the glory. That's why I wanted to know this is the first time I've ever gotten nothing from everybody and gave a testimony. So I wanted to share one more thing with y'all, if that's okay. You know, even through all this pain and all this suffering, it's really nothing. You know, it's really nothing, because even back in my school days when I was bullied because I was different, and you know, I was raised in church, so I had to wear long dresses and couldn't do this and all this and that, and couldn't, you know, but, you know, laughed and made fun of and called names and pushed around physically, mentally, and all this and that. But you know, all of that is nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing compared to what Jesus suffered. He, bearing his cross, went out to a place called Place of a Skull, and which also is called Calvary. And I have this poem. I will read to you at some other point. We don't have time today. But you know, as far as the good news concerning my daughter Jennifer Marie, I had to realize and I had to come to terms with the fact that God's taken her to heaven. He's preserved her. She's had a great life, better than mine has ever been or will be. You know, so now it's up to me. Now it's just up to me to make sure that my soul is saved so I can meet her. So I can go to heaven and we can be reunited. You have to look at the bright side when it gets so dark. There's always a bright side. Do you see that? Most people will be like, oh my God, you know, the lady I love killed our child. You know, that love didn't die overnight. I didn't just lose her, I lost him too at that point. And it was a real roller coaster. But you have to look at the bright side. She went to heaven. She was really blessed at that point. She never had to suffer all of this here on earth. She grew up in heaven, and she's just waiting for me, and I will get to see her again. So long as I keep my soul right. No, what a glorious day that will be. Thank you.